This is a quick video to give you peer editing tips for your argument essay. The first thing you want to do is check your essay criteria. So once you've read your peer's essay, this is just a quick video giving you peer editing tips for the argument essay. The first thing you want to do is read over your peer's essay. As you do, you want to keep in mind the following essay criteria. Make sure that their introduction paragraph is fully developed, that they have complete paragraph, typically 5 to 7 sentences. The last sentence in that introduction paragraph should be the thesis statement, and that thesis statement needs to be a should statement. Make sure they have a minimum of 4 body paragraphs after the introduction. The first 3 should support the thesis directly, and you might check those topic sentences to make sure that they are clearly support, so that they follow the thesis, they link back to the thesis, and they explain what that next main point will be. The last of your 4 body paragraphs will explain the opposing viewpoint and then refute it. So we discussed this in class. They need to have that opposing view and refutation in the same paragraph. There may be more than 4 body paragraphs, and that's fine as long as there are at least 3 that support the thesis and at least 1 that is an opposing viewpoint. Lastly, they need to have a conclusion paragraph. If the peer's essay does not have one, you will need to do some suggesting for what they might include. We talked about doing a call to action and other types of concluding strategies in class. So just check their conclusion paragraph to make sure they've finished the essay off. Lastly, make sure that they have at least 4 sources in their essay. This is a minimum number for a passing grade. So you check their works cited page if they have one, and then make sure that within the essay they have at least 4 citations, because there should be at least 4 if they have 4 sources. Should have more than that, but that's the minimum number. As you're checking their source usage, you might be looking at the following. Those citations, I've said this in class more than once, need to match the first part of the works cited entry. So I've given you some examples up here on the screen. If you had 2 sources, The Human Mind and an article by John Smith, and then an in-text citation in parentheses, which is this right here and this right here, would be either Smith, if you have that last name of an author, or the title of the article, like The Human Mind here. A signal phrase works similarly to an in-text citation, but that's written in the sentence itself as opposed to in parentheses at the end. So these 2 are examples of signal phrases according to John Smith, the article The Human Mind states. So it's typically an according to, or the author of the article title, and then a verb as the 2 options for a signal phrase. Those are the ones used most often. We practice blending quotations in class as well, so they may have other options, but making sure that you check those citations, the part that's in the parentheses or the part that is part of the signal phrase needs to match the first part of the works cited entry. So it's pretty easy to double check those. You just have to check that works cited entry. The next thing you want to do is edit for content. Make sure that the first sentence of each paragraph is a bridge sentence or a topic sentence that tells us what that sentence will be about. This is a good place to add comments for your peer's essay. Make sure there's a hook as an introduction. They didn't just start with the thesis, or they didn't start with something kind of boring, that you feel like that introduction is drawing you into the topic. Make sure there's a satisfying conclusion. Again, you can give them some feedback on this and make sure that it feels like the essay comes to a conclusion. Make sure each paragraph is developed, so you can even count the sentences. 5 to 7 is a good number. It's okay to go over 7, but less than 5 typically means it's underdeveloped thoughts, and so you then could point those paragraphs out for your reader to make sure that they add to them. Make sure that each body paragraph has evidence. Each one of those those main points needs to have sources used in them. I recommend at least 2 pieces of evidence for every body paragraph. That is, a quote or a paraphrase, some reference to a source, at least 2 within each paragraph. That's a good place to provide feedback as well. Make sure that their evidence is explained. We discussed this in class, making sure that the sentence after you include a quote or paraphrase that explains the importance of that quote or paraphrase. Finally, you want to make sure you're editing for grammar. So things to look for in your own essay as well as in your peer's essay. Check for those second person pronouns, so the word you. We've talked about this in class as well. Making sure that you're not overusing that word you. Typically, you want a third person pronoun like people instead. Remember to check for first person pronouns. In this assignment, first person is not allowed either. You should not be using personal experience as evidence. I want you to find your evidence in your sources for this essay. So checking for those first person pronouns will help your peer out. Look for fragments, anything that's an incomplete sentence or thought. An example here is looking for my lost sock. There's no subject here, so we don't know who's looking for it. And so you would want to add in a subject to make that a complete sentence. Look for comma splices as well. This is probably the most common grammar error in composition, and that is where a comma comes between 2 independent clauses without an addition like a conjunction. So when you have a comma, you need to add in a conjunction, so it should read, I couldn't wait to get home because my dog is always really happy when I walk in the door, would be a good way to use that conjunction to combine those 2 ideas together. You can also use, of course, a period, and you could also use a semicolon. So that's it for peer editing tips. Hopefully you have gotten some good ideas out of this PowerPoint. Make sure that you're getting that peer edit complete, and you can also, of course, look for these same things in your own essay as you make revisions.